Creepercast, episode 60.
Hey, I'm Madison Lentz. I play Sophia from AMC's The Walking Dead, and you're listening to Creepercast.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Creepercast with Jeff and Jason. I'm Jason, and with me always is my co-host Jeff. He's been permanently banned from Toys R Us due to his reenactment of the human centipede between himself, a sock monkey, and a My Little Pony doll.
Hey, now come on, the My Little Pony doll, she was totally down for it.
I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing.
Good point. I don't know about the sock puppet. I didn't ask.
Well, that's right.
But we have a very, very, very special show tonight.
We do. We have an amazing show, and to get right off with this, I'm going to actually play a little intro so that you get an idea of who we have. If you've been following us on Twitter at twitter.com/creepercast, on our Facebook page at facebook.com/creepercast, talk to me and Jeff personally, or have been reading the website, you will know who it is. But here's an intro to let you know who we have tonight. We have a very special guest on today's episode. To give you an idea of who I'm talking about, he's a singer, actor, and dancer. He was raised in California, where he used to put on musicals and puppet shows for neighborhood kids, then went on to study drama at San Diego's United States International University School of Performing Arts, while also working as a circus performer, which means I'm safe to call him a clown, I hope. After that, he moved to New York to attend the Graduate School of Arts and Science at New York University. He made his stage debut at 22 in the production of Take Her, She's Mine. He made his Broadway debut in 1969 with Cock-a-Doodle Dandy, but it was his portrayal as the slick-haired, leather jacket-wearing bad boy, Danny Zuko, in 1972's smash hit, Grease, that put his name in lights and gave him his first Tony Award nomination.
Hey, you guys do want to hear all the horny details?
While singing and dancing his hips off on Broadway, he was also moving to the screen with the comedy spoofs Road Movie and The Wrong Damn Film. But those films paled in comparison when he decided to join up as Brad Majors with director Jim Sharman and actors Tim Curry and Susan Sarandon in 1975's The Rocky Horror Picture Show, a role I doubt he'll ever get away from.
Damn it, Janet.
His film career spans 4 decades on both the big screen and on them newfangled televisions people had in their houses. He played everything from historic icons such as George Washington.
I know that if ever I travel to the end of this land, I'm sure I'll come to paradise.
To flying motorcycle badass Commander Ace Hunter in 1982's Megaforce. In 1986, he decided to learn fatherhood once a week on ABC's sitcom Dads.
If women have the instincts, maybe it's all those years of secret talking on the telephone together. What do 2 single fathers raising 3 kids have? We got the seat of our pants. It's a little slice of life. When Dad's premieres Friday.
Which hopefully prepared him for his Parent Trap in 1989. He granted people 3 wishes in the 1990 TV movie Aladdin and discovered the mysteries of a Walking Dead man in 1993's Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Perhaps you're right. I haven't been sleeping well. Things have been going badly at work. I'm feeling some pressure.
For 5 years, he ran New York City as Mayor Randall Winston.
Do I seem gay to you? I mean, I don't know why the press latches on to things like this.
And evidently questioned his sexuality in the CBS sitcom Spin City, co-starring Teen Wolf himself, Michael J. Fox, and American Horror Stories' Connie Britton. He's been a defense attorney on Law & Order SVU, a washed-up magician on Supernatural, and a cancer patient on Scrubs. And on this podcast, he's got our love and adoration as Sheriff Walt Fuller.
This thing has no head, honey.
I know, sir.
Most bodies have a head.
Absolutely.
Where's this thing's head?
Not sure yet, sir.
Oh, we should find this head.
Good idea, sir.
On a film, Jeff and I talk constantly about Some Guy Who Kills People, written and directed by our good friends Ryan Levin and Jack Perez. If you haven't figured it out by now,
I'm Barry Bostwick.
I'm talking about the one and only Barry Bostwick.
Who is Barry Bostwick?
Well, I want to tell you that we have him on the podcast right now. Barry, I hope that was a good enough intro for you.
You know, I have to say, I haven't heard anything that good about me since I was talking about me this afternoon.
Well, I'm glad that I can do almost as good as you.
Yeah, no, that was really good. That was you found dialogue and thing. I didn't know I even had that line in George Washington, and it was that must have taken you a long time.
It was fun. There was a couple things that I found that I definitely have to ask you about. At the beginning, I had "Jump for My Love," a song that you sang in, according to YouTube, 1984.
Yeah, it was a benefit for. They were raising money for the Olympics, and I don't remember much about it other than the fact that it was a big benefit stage show on television. You know, like a big special, Olympic special. Yeah.
Well, it was definitely fun to watch, and yeah, definitely searching through all of these took me back quite a few years to some of the stuff that I didn't even realize that you did, but I knew I watched it years ago.
Well, and also that was the jump thing was my period when I was doing a lot of aerobics, my Jane Fonda period. If you go on YouTube and look at it, you'll see that the whole dance number is me doing Jane Fonda aerobic movements.
Well, and you did the splits, which shocked me, both ways too, not just one way. And at one point, you kind of did a little Pee Wee Herman dance, so great choreography with that.
Yeah, I did a Pee Wee Herman dance. I did, huh? That's good. I'll have to look at it again and. Maybe I can eliminate the Pee Wee Herman dance part of it in the future.
All right.
No,
well,
I would say it was the Barry Bostwick dance, but
the Barry Bostwick dance. Oh yeah, this would have come out first, wouldn't it have?
Yeah.
Well,
it would have been long before.
I shared that stage with some very beautiful, talented women. So look it up and watch it. It's sort of fun. I had the classic '80s hair. A very big bouffant hair, if I remember correctly, and sort of like my Megaforce hair.
Yeah, that was definite 80s gold. I showed that to Jeff as soon as I saw that, and I swear after listening to that too, I couldn't get it out of my head for about 2 hours. So,
and I'm still singing it. So.
Are you? It's good.
It was fantastic when he played me that. I was just like, holy crap, I forgot about all this stuff, and actually didn't even know about some of it that he had put in there, which I think is was fantastic that he brought it out, and we were able to remind you of those days, because I don't know how well you remember it.
Well, actually, I like those days, but I like all of my days. So
yeah, there you go.
You know, but I don't live in the past, but I'm like looking up on my bulletin board now above my desk, and I'm lying to you because I've got pictures up there of the last 20 years of my life. So I guess I do live in the past.
I think we all have to, a little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy to me. That's like having flashbacks without actually having the flashbacks.
Well, come on, Jeff. I have pictures of me back in the days when, I was actually in shape and was a wrestler. Now I coach wrestling and I'm out of shape and pretend that I know what I used to be able to do.
And do you have those pictures in front of you, though, all the time?
No, they're hanging on my wall in my office where I'm sitting right now, so I'm looking at them.
Uh-huh. There's just guilt pictures.
That's what they are.
Yeah,
Trying to get me to lose weight and...
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about your beginnings, because in my intro, I was looking up and I knew you acted on stage. I didn't know. Were you really the first Danny Zuko?
Oh yeah. I created the part of Danny Zuko on Broadway in Greece, and I did it for about almost 2 years. I did the New York production, the Broadway production, and then I did the L.A. first national tour and the Chicago, when we had Chicago, and then I left the show after that. I was just exhausted. That show is a hard show to do, 8 shows a week.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was great. I was actually able to find one clip of you singing Summer Loving from that.
Yeah, that's a fun clip. That was for a special on PBS.
Yeah.
About a month ago, we went back to New York and we got the original cast together again. And we did about 15 minutes of the show for a Gypsy of the Year benefit on Broadway for Broadway Cares Fights AIDS, and it was great fun. We did summer nights and 3 or 4 other bits and pieces of the show, and I didn't do the splits though.
Not sure that would be advisable right now.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point you should stop doing that. And along with this, you were also in a pop group called the Clowns.
With the Clowns, with a K, Clowns with a K. Yeah, it was. We were produced by Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, and we were hip. Young pop group that dressed up as hip young clowns, and we had an album, and our big hit, I think, went to 38 on the charts, called Lady Love, and it was I was the lead singer, and we all played characters, and I played a character named Bo. And then I taught everybody how to juggle and everything in it, and they did a TV special. We were put together to do an hour TV special, as we were the hosts of where they used circus acts and celebrities, and we were going to be the sort of interlocutors, and they did the pilot, and it never went anywhere. Sammy Davis Jr. was in the pilot with us, and but it never was picked up. It's too bad. It was a good idea.
So how'd you go from being in the Clowns to being on stage and then the screen?
That's a long journey. Probably. Yeah. I was doing a lot of it simultaneously. I was living in New York. I had a loft down on the Bowery. I was sort of typical, because I went to NYU in the late 60s, so I was in the East Village, the whole, hippie scene, and I lived down in a loft and just sort of hung in that sort of arena for the 70s, and then I started going back and forth from LA to New York. Kept my loft till I think like mid 80s or something, but I was always doing theater in New York, and then if I could get a movie, I'd do a movie, and if I got a TV thing, I'd do that. I was just do anything I could get. I did a lot of commercials. In fact, Scope, mouthwash, and Wrigley's gum, and ring around. I did a ring around the collar thing. I just did all. I did anything I could to pay my rent, like everybody did.
Where are all these commercials? I was scouring YouTube for everything.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know. I think I have them on like 8mm or something here. I got a couple of them. I think I have the Scope commercial, but I don't know why they haven't been picked up, other than the fact that, we made them so long ago, and nobody kept them, or nobody really.
What copies were on tape probably got taped over or something.
Yeah, I guess, and nobody's discovered them yet. But someday people will discover my whole commercial career in New York. I mean, I did tire commercials. I did Schick commercials. I did a Sara Lee cake commercial. I did all kinds of commercials. It's how I learned, I think, how to work on film and the discipline of it. Because when you do a commercial, you have to do every line, 30, 20, 30, 40 times. And there's always this huge collection of people behind the monitor, from the ad agencies and the producers and the directors, and everybody has their say. And so you learn to listen. You learn to listen to other people's opinions, and you learn to be a good boy, and do it the way they want you to do it. And then I'd go off and do something off Broadway where I'd take my clothes off on stage. So I'd do it my way, So, you'd go back and forth.
That's right. Speaking of taking your clothes off, of course, everybody has to ask you about the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
And I think half of our chat room is in there because it got up on some Rocky Horror board somewhere. But
welcome, my friends. Welcome, my family. They are my family. They are people I love.
I love Rocky Horror right from, I remember seeing it when I was a little kid, and then in college, my fraternity, Alpha Psi Omega, as a fundraiser every year for Halloween, we would put on a showing of it while we danced in front of it on stage and stuff.
What? I don't mean to cut you off, but thinking of Alpha Psi Omega, when I was in college, I started a chapter of Alpha Psi Omega at my school, which was really California Western University at the time, and I only started the chapter is so that I could get Best Actor of the Year award.
Awesome. That is the best reason to start a theater fraternity right there.
Oh yeah, and I think the second year I allowed myself to get the Best Supporting Actor. So I just sort of covered the bases. But Alpha Psi Omega, I wonder if is it still around, Alpha Psi Omega?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's still chapters all over the U.S. I know our alma mater at Central Michigan University still has a really strong theater program, and Alpha Psi Omega is going on. I know a couple people in the chat room are from there.
Oh, good. Well, welcome, brothers. Or sisters, or whoever you
both,
are.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we got both in there.
And they're in there. And so Rocky Horror, I'm sure you probably told the story 1,000 times at conventions and stuff, but how did you go about getting into doing that?
I was just doing a lot of theater in New York, and I heard about, and I knew this was a huge hit on stage, and it was playing out here in L.A. on the Sunset Strip, and I had a bunch of friends in it, and then I found out that they were doing the movie, and I knew the casting director. And I went and I auditioned, if I believe, I never get this right. Everybody tells me it's wrong. I auditioned with Susan. We both went in together at the same time and basically just had a meeting with them. But people tell me I actually auditioned, but I don't remember my audition. But they wanted to see the two of us because we were their choices, I think, before we ever went in, and we were the sort of ultimate, American classic couple, and so yeah, and they gave us a part, and the rest is cult history, I suppose.
And just to prove that there is a chat room out there listening, KC wants you to know that you looked pretty damn good in a bustier and fishnet stockings.
Oh, well, thank you. Was that a woman who said that?
Yes.
Yes, it was actually.
Oh,
Aren't you
good.
glad?
Oh, damn it. Damn, I thought it was a guy. I like it when guys.
Well,
like
I have to say you
Yeah.
look good in a bustier and fishnet stockings.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I wish I had kept that bustier and those stockings. I could have made a fortune on eBay.
I'm sure you
Probably. Or those size 12, 5-inch high heels.
Tim Curry and a few of the other people in the show actually did it on stage before the film, at least from what I've read and heard.
That's true, yeah.
Did that change how you went into it, knowing that they've done it for years or done it so many times and you're fresh to it?
No, it made the whole, I think it made it much more comfortable because they were very secure. They didn't need a lot of rehearsal. I mean, we could just go right in and shoot. Susan and I were a little sort of, we were fish out of water. I don't think neither of us had ever been to England before. And so that was all new to us, being in a foreign country when we were shooting it. And it all just sort of went hand in hand. And I think our real life situation sort of paralleled our situation in the movie. And,
kind of the fish out of water kind of feel.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, it was just cold and wet and it was thrilling. So much of it was just thrilling.
When did you realize that it became more than just a fad at the time?
I didn't even see it when it first came out. I sort of lost track or lost interest, or I was onto something else. And then, as you know, it wasn't very popular when it first came out, it got buried real quick. And then it was rediscovered, a couple of years later. And I think I became aware of it after it was rediscovered in the Midnight Circuit in New York. And then I went and saw it, but it was even before the audience was doing their bit with it. They were just starting to do it,
The throwing of the bread and the
They had just started to do all that. They didn't have a lot of people, yelling at the screen at the time. That sort of picked up some momentum, as the years went on.
And there's some crazy websites out there about exactly when and how to say stuff to the screen.
Yeah, I've seen like complete scripts that tell you exactly when to do things. And I know that was a New York thing that started. And now everybody does it. Every reenactment you go to where you have the players that, at certain scenes come out and do it, you're expected to do certain things.
Yeah, I had a hard enough time remembering my own lines, let alone as an audience member to have to remember what to scream at the screen. But you know what? Those reenactors or the shadow casts, there's some wonderful people who've been doing that I've seen over the years. People who are great mimics and actors and I'm sure have gone on to have professional careers. And that was their sort of little theater experience. That was their community theater.
In some colleges and such, it's actually like almost a required experience to be involved in something like that. We have Dr. Bendezu in the chat room who's in New Zealand, who actually says that every high school drama student knows Rocky Horror by heart.
Really?
And so it's actually become almost a requirement.
For
a lot of drama classes.
Oh, good. So I have a job. I can go and teach Rocky Horror at schools.
There you go. Yeah,
it would be a short class.
The correct way to be bred. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. What is that? What is the plaid on your cummerbund? The fans know things that we don't know. They know exactly. How many. I've had discussions with people who've played Brad over the emblem on my jacket when we first come to the castle scene, and whether or not there's exactly what's on the emblem. And I had borrowed a jacket a year or so ago from one of the producers of John Goldstone of the original movie, and he had one sitting in his closet. and and he let me use it for some anniversary a couple of years ago. Was that the 35th or something? And I wore it, and I wore it on stage, and people were giving me flack, saying, "Well, that's not real. That's not the real one." I said, "But it came right off the film. The guy had it in his closet. He was the producer because the emblem, because the Denton High, logo thing on it wasn't the same as what people had seen and what they had copied. I still don't know whether or not it's the right one. That one he had in his closet could have been like for for like maybe second unit people or people who were doing, like not my stand-ins, but just doing second unit stuff.
Right.
And like off-Broadway versions and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, they were like it was probably from the movie, but maybe after we shot the film, they had to go back and maybe do some long shots or something. So they used
pickups.
Yeah, pickups, and so other people wore the jacket, and they weren't so concerned about the exact design of the emblem because they weren't going to see it close up. But
so I take it then that the conventions nowadays are pretty crazy. It's kind of like when you hear George Takei or anybody from Star Trek talk about the fact that the fans are just so rabid about things. I'm assuming that conventions today then for Rocky Horror are just the same. It sounds like that anyway from what you've just said.
Well, they're rabid, they're enthusiastic, they're loving, their family, their friends from all over the world. They're shy. They're people. They're everybody. I mean, it's a full. It's a
family.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
These are a family of people,
it's like, and it's and it's functional and dysfunctional. Like any family, and. What fascinates me is that the family keeps on having children, and I'll be somewhere, and a 10-year-old or 12-year-old will come up to me and go, "Oh, you're Brad," and I go, "How do you know?" They go, "Well, my mom took me to see the film when I was 10." And I say, "Bring your mom over here. I'm going to arrest her."
Yeah. Would they let a 10-year-old into that movie?
Yeah, there's a lot of it. It just gets younger and younger, and so all of a sudden, if I'm at some place where they know I'm going to be and it's a Rocky Horror sort of oriented event, I'll have people 70 and 10 and 11, and they'll all be as enthusiastic about the film as we were when we first made it.
Well, and like they've said in the chat room, and Dr. Bendezu actually, touches on it a lot because he's 17. He's the one in New Zealand. And he mentions the fact that he's one of those children you were speaking of that, the parents were into it. He got brought into it and he's a huge fan. And I think you really touched on something major by saying, that it's this different, this cross section of people. It's not just one type of person in specific. It's a whole bunch of people. And he kind of touched, and the way he put it is it's a very freeing it's very freeing as a teenager, or Rob's actually said that. It's very freeing as a teenager because you don't feel like you have to be stereotyped anymore when you've seen Rocky Horror Picture. And I would actually have to say that's the truth. That's the truth for me when it came to Rocky Horror, is that you were seeing things that were so unconventional to what you were being taught at the time. I mean, I grew up through the 80s and through the 90s and such. And, we're like always being stereotyped into situations. Whereas a film like Rocky Horror told you that stereotypes were bull.
Yeah, exactly. Unconventional conventionists. What was that line? What's that line from the movie? Unconventional conventionists or something like that? Yeah. Exactly. It's all about being unconventional, being accepting of the differences, and cool costumes.
Awesome
costumes. And Casey has actually made a mention in the chat that she was wondering if you still keep in touch with Richard O'Brien.
I haven't seen Richard in years. Meatloaf and I did an episode of Glee last year. Yeah. I see Patricia Quinn occasionally. I see Susan occasionally at some opening or something, and or a charity event. And I saw Tim last year. There was a charity event here in Los Angeles, and I hadn't seen him in years.
Wow.
And I keep up with them as much as I can, but we're everybody's sort of gone in different directions, and
Right.
and I know that Richard O'Brien. Well, actually, Richard O'Brien, he plays a character on Phineas and Ferb cartoon. He plays one of the grandfathers of one of the characters, Phineas or Ferb, and I play the grandfather of the other one. And it's funny. Sometimes we'll be in the same episode, and I'll hear about him from the producer of the Phineas and Ferb going, well, we recorded Richard, and he's down in New Zealand on his farm, and that's how I keep up with these people, just professionally and through other people.
Yeah, I'm gonna move us along actually, to get us through the Rocky Horror stuff.
Yeah,
because,
one last thing before we move on.
Well,
though,
not one last thing. We got 3 more questions on the Rocky Horror, and then we'll move.
Fine, go.
Let's see. Well, actually, I wanted to make I wanted to make a comment. Just your body of work. Given with your body of work, I mean, you are so talented, and you stand out so much. You stand out so much as an actor, a musician, a character type actor. That but it seems like in most of the stuff that you are popular in, especially like Brad in Rocky Horror, you're kind of the straight man. I mean, you play this kind of ditzy character and such. And I guess the question that I had, based on some of the stuff that I've seen from you prior to Rocky Horror, is: so do you think you could have pulled off Frankenfurter?
I always wanted to. I think I'm not sure I had the freedom of personality to do it at the time. But all of us wanted to play Frankenfurter, even while we watched him, come down in the lift, and I was always in awe and envious of him and the character that he played. It's sort of like every actress wants to play a whore. Every actor wants to play Frankenfurter, which basically is a whore, So I think that's
they want that sexual ambiguity.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so many of the really popular actors, have a certain amount of sexual ambiguity in terms of their appeal. I mean, they appeal to both men and women. The Brad Pitts and this and that, they're attractive people, and even without the makeup.
Well, I've always said that Ryan Reynolds, if you ever need a man to love, I'm here for you.
Oh, really,
Ryan Reynolds, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well, in case you haven't told by our, you couldn't tell by our emails, I'm here for you, Barry.
Thank you. Oh my God! Right. Yeah. All right. I will. I will always cherish this moment.
As he's writing out his restraining order against you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So the idea of a remake where you and Tim trade roles is not in the future.
Nah. I don't think I'd look as good in the bustier now as I did back then. I think I could probably get into shape if you gave me, a year. But no, what would it be like? I mean, if you did, I know people have been they've been talking about doing Rocky Horror again, reviving it on film I have
often thought about that, and I'm not sure it would work, because really Rocky Horror is a product of the time and the culture that it came from, in my opinion. Yes. And so, we just have a whole different culture that I don't think that it would work. A reboot of it or a remake of it would work now.
No, because you'd have to keep it in. Well, you'd have to keep it in the period it came from. That sort of glitter rock,
right.
Mid 70s. It is a period piece, just as Carousel is, or Oklahoma is. They're all, you can't take them out of their period, and when you do, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, my last Rocky Horror question for you is, comes from listener and a friend of mine named Danny, who would like to know if you still rock out in your tighty whities.
Oh, when you say rock out, do you mean do I hang out? Do I fill them as well as I did back then? I'm not quite sure what he's.
See, I'm not really sure either. I thought she was making the comment about pulling off the whole risky business thing where you were partying down
dancing with around the house
in your underwear. That's what I implied, but that was a good.
You know what? Okay, I will do that. I will say to her, "Yeah, baby, I do," and I would, if you were here, I would crank up the music and just act. I'd act silly. Because that's basically what I do. I'm just a silly guy, I mean, all these movies and things are silly. They're just acting is a silly business.
Oh, and of course the way you do it is just you basically let everybody know that right from the start. In fact, we're going to get into silly because Ryan Levin has said that Levine, however you say his name, Jason knows that better than I do.
Yes.
Has actually told us that
it's Levin, yeah.
Levin, okay. What Ryan has said is that one of the movies we have to check out is Megaforce.
Oh, does he really?
And of course, yeah, I guess that's the one that he, that he remembers seeing before he actually saw you as an actor and such. And so, of course, we had to do some of our research on Megaforce. And Jason, I'm going to let you head the first question because I think you came up with it.
Okay. Real quick, because I'm getting bombarded with a text from somebody that left the chat room because she has to go to work, and she wanted to ask, before we get into that, what is your favorite call-out line from Rocky Horror? Then I'll jump into Megaforce.
Asshole.
Okay, thank you.
Asshole. Yeah.
I'll text
Asshole. Every time they called me asshole, I would just get wet.
Okay, Megaforce, can you describe the Delta MK4 Mega Fighter?
Yeah, that was the rocket firing motorcycle, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it was it actually was a pretty cool prop because it actually did shoot rockets. I don't know how they did it, but we would be driving along through the desert just outside Las Vegas. And we'd have these scenes where we actually had to shoot rockets off the front of our motorcycles, and they would automatically shoot rockets, and they were cool motorcycles. I think what was really neat about that movie was just the hardware. I mean, it was a real kids fantasy of that kind of elite fighting force with all these cool weapons, and Mattel brought out a whole set of toys of all of the motorcycles and the dune buggies and
I actually had toys of the motorcycle.
No,
yes.
Did you? I never got one.
I had, and I remember the box set it came in and everything.
Wow.
And it came with the little helmet thing. Oh yeah, it was awesome. Of course, my mom, being that she never saved anything, it's probably worth a mint now.
I would think, because I think they only made them for like one season or 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got rid of everything. She was one of them people that didn't hold on to anything from my childhood. So it was. Yeah. I mean, she held on to a lot of stuff, but like a lot of the stuff that she thought was just toys.
Mm-hmm.
She just got rid of it. And yeah, I think back to that, and as I'm doing the research and I'm looking up stuff, and I'm like, I remember seeing this on a box. Yes,
that's funny. Yeah. I played Ace Hunter. Hunter. Could it be any more? Could it be any more larger than life? Ace Hunter, and my character was actually I was cast in that. I was doing a production of Pirates of Penzance. It was the production that Kevin Kline did in New York, and I was doing it out here in Los Angeles. And the director's wife came to see it, and she recommended me to the director, to Hal Needham, and said, "You got to cast this guy." in your movie. He wears this bandana and he throws it in the audience, and everybody just swoons or whatever. And so he did. He says, "Well, I'd cast you in this, but you have to wear the bandana." And it's something that I had worn in Pirates of Penzance in the stage show, and I was. Thank God I was in I was in pretty good slimmed down shape, because we were in those jumpsuits, those thin jumpsuits, all the time.
I was gonna say, you're out in the desert and you're wearing, them jumpsuits, which they're sparkly, so they don't
tight,
look like they really breathe at all.
No, they didn't. But that's okay. We looked cool. We looked very 80s. It was that was a fun time. I had a good time. We never knew what we were going to shoot from day to day. They didn't know really what the script was. They knew what it was going to look like. They knew the stunts, and they knew all that. But actually the words that came out of our mouth were written in the car on the way to the set in the morning. It was not that we improvised it, but the emphasis certainly wasn't on the storyline.
See, that's what you got to love most about the 80s. And on a sombering note, just to bring us down a little bit, a lot of comparisons have been made to Chuck Norris's Delta Force with Megaforce.
Yes.
I'm assuming there's a spoof, that there was a spoof involved in this as well. But yeah, and of course, the Delta Force, motorcycle, because Chuck's missiles fire, he had a missile firing motorcycle as well. But I just want to say that his didn't fly, therefore Chuck Norris sucks.
Oh yeah, no, mine flew. In fact, I think that was my idea, to fly that motorcycle at the end. That we were trying to find a way to get me off to get into the plane and stuff. I said, well, why don't you just put wings on the motorcycle? Why don't I just go so fast that I fly off the... No, we didn't have wings. Actually, we had a jet on the back, if I remember.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a jet, and then wings, actually, small little wings came out from right by where the back wheel was.
Did they really?
Yes.
Huh.
Small little itty-bitty wings, yep.
No kidding. Well... Yeah, and then we end up in the back of that airplane, and then I jump off the motorcycle with this huge cheesy grin on my face, and sort of give the thumbs up. It was just a really cheesy stuff.
Oh, it was G.I. Joe-ish.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But again, it was larger than life, and it was from its time. And
what's great about that too is 80s green screen back then, compared to what people are used to watching now. Because as I watch this, I'm watching the flying scene as you're trying to rock back and forth, and I can't say that it's the best flying scene I've ever seen, but it kind of reminds me of Grease at the end where the car levitates.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that, but yeah, exactly. That, for all of the haters out there for Megaforce, I have to say that you have to look at the time that it was made and look at it from a fun way. And if you want another comparison of, if you think that it's a bad movie, watch McBain with Christopher Walken. Because these are the types of movies that they make life fun.
Exactly. Well, we went, and we didn't make it to be, it wasn't, what was that movie? The Deer Killer? Deer Slayer?
The Deer Slayer? Yeah.
Yeah.
Deer
Hunter, we weren't Deer Hunter. We weren't, we weren't trying to make something like that. We were just trying to make something that you'd enjoy, and it was escapist, so much of the stuff that I do is just totally escapist. It's just what I enjoy doing. It's what I have fun doing. It's the reason I think I was put on this earth this time around was just to entertain people, sort of funny, obscure, interesting, oblique ways.
Well, the way we would describe movies like Megaforce is we constantly talk about 80s horror because they are the best worst horror movies ever created.
Yeah.
And we talked about movies like The Troll and well, just a couple of weeks ago we talked about Ghoulies and Critters, and things like that. I mean, these are the movies that, you know, aren't really necessarily made to scare you, as, you know, the way we diagnose a lot of horror movies is whether or not they scare us. They're there to actually bring you into the time period, to really enjoy what happened during the 80s and everything.
No, did you ever see a movie I did called Metal Beast?
I don't think I've seen that.
Not seen that one.
I
will be looking for that one.
Yeah,
now you did do it. You did do a TV movie that I'm looking for called The Praying Mantis.
Oh,
I've been trying to find that one.
Well, no, but that was just a typical, thriller. The wife killing all of her husbands, and I was that last husband, and she tried to kill me, and I don't think she did. But no, Metal Beast. Where we create the superhuman beast, and they actually were thinking of doing a sequel last year to it, but so Google Metal Beast if you want to see a sort of cheesy 90s movie.
Oh, nice! I have added that to my list.
I know. In the meantime, IMDb as we speak.
Yeah. In the meantime, I think we should move on to small screen, because you obviously were the greatest mayor New York City has ever had.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was certainly the most fun, I think.
The entertaining. Well. Yeah, Spin City. You were on there with Michael J. Fox and then later Charlie Sheen. Can you describe real quick Mayor Winston for people that haven't seen Spin City? Or I don't know how you haven't seen it though. It runs
and if they haven't,
for like
why?
5 hours a day on cable.
Yeah. Well, Mayor Winston came from a sort of Connecticut upbringing, upper class, rich. Entitled, and he was a sort of the Mitt Romney of his time, you know?
Oh, I like that comparison.
He was like, had that same sort of square-jawed, good-looking kind of, basically, potentially and could be run by his staff, you know, or saved by his staff. He was just always living in his own world. And then occasionally he'd sort of come out and solve a problem. But most of the time he was creating problems for everybody else in the office to solve. He was a wonderful figurehead, I think, at the time. And it gave Mike Fox something to do every week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, he saved you every week.
Oh, he constantly saved me. And, when I first auditioned for that and I got the part, I think they saw the character a bit darker, somebody who was more mean-spirited. And then, and that's why he would sort of piss people off and always make mistakes, or not make mistakes, but just be, a little more conniving, more politician conniving, more Gingrichi. And I think when I started getting into it, I just I couldn't play him that way. He just had to be a little more whimsical, funny, fun, obtuse,
kind of disconnected almost to what's happening around him.
Yeah, and then when he had to be connected, he would be. But he was dreamy and.
Oh God, the fact that you said dreamy for some reason, I can remember the one scene where Mayor Winston is talking to the teachers union, and actually does the thing where he puts his hand on his head because he's really tired, pretending like, okay, if I put my hand up here, she won't notice that I'm sleeping. I don't know why that just jumped into my head.
Really, I don't remember any of those shows. I mean, I would whenever I would see them on cable or something, I would go, "Well, that's funny. Boy, we made a funny show." When you're so into the mix, when you're doing them week after week after week, and just churning them out, and you rely on instinct to get you through that time, and you rely on the chemistry between you and all the other actors. That and that show in particular, I think, had a great deep bench of comic actors that you could throw any storyline or any focus to anybody in that cast, and they could have carried a whole show. And that's not you don't see that a lot in shows like that. Seinfeld could do it. They would carry stories with all the characters. And it was the same thing with our show, I think, that everybody had the chops to really do it.
Oh, yeah, definitely a great ensemble in there. And a lot of them going on to doing a lot of great things. One that pops into my head is Connie Britton.
Yeah.
Doing American Horror Story right now. And
she did Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about this. How you've kept a pretty, seems like, close relationship to Bill Lawrence, doing spots on Scrubs and now Cougar Town. Yeah. Well,
Bill is one of those guys who keeps you in his black book. You become his go-to guys. The Spin City people, the people he's worked with, he's pretty loyal. And I think on Cougar Town, I started out as the father of the boyfriend of Busy Phillips, and then I think I became the owner of the shipyard that Bobby had his boat dry docked in. And then I became an entrepreneur who tried to get the penny can out into the public, into the world. And then I became the husband of one of the characters, the original Cougar character. And then I became the mayor of the town 2 weeks ago.
That's quite a promotion you've been getting on there.
I just keep on floating around, and they bring me in. I always say, they bring me in for 3 good laughs. If I get 3 laughs, I've earned my money. That was also true about the mayor. I mean, the mayor, was maybe in only 3 or 4 scenes a week, if that many. And I always thought, my job was to get 4 laughs an episode.
No, he definitely had some of the best one-liners on there.
Well, that actually causes me to have to ask questions like, Law and Order SVU. You weren't comic relief for the most part. You were kind of a, you were the jerk defense attorney for the most part.
Yeah.
So,
but I kept on losing them all of my cases.
Yeah, well, that's because you weren't the good guy. But
yeah, I was. Whenever I played a character, Gates, I think, who was like the lawyer that they would call in if the rich kid needed to be defended, and I was the one with the expensive suit and the sort of egomaniacal, the one that everybody was afraid of, but kept on beating me up in the courtroom, and. So I'd much prefer to play wacky mayors than these lawyers who keep losing their cases.
I was kind of wondering about that, and actually Ryan did actually warn us when he found out that you were going to be on our show. He kind of warned us that we were going to be jazzed a bit, so I was expecting a little bit of Oliver to come onto you while we were talking.
That's this Some Guy Who Kills People is a great film. I know you guys have been real fans of it, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the early, talk that you guys have, and encouraged Ryan and the movie. I think it's a real unique film. It's one of those films that has some horror, but over the top kind of pop arty kind of almost horror. And then it's got a really the center of the film is very heartfelt. And I just think it's a really unique film in that it sort of crosses so many genres, And I was able to play a very rural sheriff in it, which is the reason why I did it. I liked the script, but I just liked the fact that the guy was not an obvious hard ass kind of sheriff. He was more like he was more like the mayor, you know, in Spin City, but he was a guy who thought things through and put things together and finally solves the case, but in his own way, in a very unique way. And
I would say that's one of the things that I loved most about the film is that if you take all the body of work we've talked about for the last almost hour, and you know the body of work that you've done has been every combination of that. And as Sheriff Fuller, though, you were every combination of everything you've played before. You had the you had the humor, which was, you know, and it was a dark, you know, I mean, which really appeals to us as the Creepercast. The dark humor. There was the slasher aspect of the film, and then as you were approaching every murder scene, you had these fantastic liners. And it was just, that's what drew us to this film for the most part. I mean, as soon as I saw, you know, when Ryan first contacted us and told us about the film and that, you know, he wanted us to check it out and everything, that as soon as he gave us the list of cast members, that's what sold me. Was as soon as I saw your name and Karen's name, I was like, well, I have to see this film. From that aspect, because you haven't, as far as, you know, out of all the stuff we've talked about, you've never done anything that's actually bordered on horror, slasher, you know, anything else that we would normally talk about on a regular basis. So that's the reason why I was drawn so quickly into this film. And then when we actually watched it, I couldn't help but laugh. And then I'm sure, I don't know if you've read my review about the film, but one of the things I talked about was how your character seems like this bumbling sheriff who's, you know, this country sheriff who, you know, seems like he doesn't have a grip on reality, but is probably the smartest guy in the whole film.
Thank you for saying that. That was my intention, hopefully, to use a certain intelligence, but a sort of small town intelligence. You know, you got to figure the reality of it was that all these murders were happening in this small town. This guy never had to deal with a murder before. You know, the police department was in an old Chinese restaurant, for Christ's sake. You know, it was, he had to, he just rose to the occasion and found it involving and fun. And it was like his big football game if you were a high school quarterback. You know, it was like he savored this experience because he probably knew there would never be any other murders in this town. You know, and
that was evident in the fact that your character was eating at every crime scene.
I love that. I that was something I added. I think Ryan mentioned at one point in it that I was eating something, and I thought, well, I want to eat something or chew gum, and I want to include it in every scene that I was in, and I tried to, and it was fun for me to try to find ways to you know, incorporate swizzles, you know, or offer the guy gum in a car scene, you know, to sort of. It's very personal, you know, when you offer somebody gum or something like that. To me, it created a connection and perhaps a false sense of security for the person I was with. You know, it was all very. It was thought out. You know, it was thought out, and but I think it's an excellent film, and I hope Ryan, and I know he will, go on to do many, many other things. And I hope to work with him a lot in the future because I didn't make a penny off this one.
I was going to ask you about that. You know, when you got the film and you're making the choices, you know, how do you go into a film like this knowing that or thinking that there's a good chance that I probably won't be making anything out of this outside of a great film?
Well, that's it. I mean, you do it because you're going to try to work on a character that nobody would normally have given you. You know, it would be a character that if it was a huge, big budget studio film, you know, they would have given it to Al Pacino, you know, or somebody like that who would have, you know, played the hell out of the part. But so I do these parts because they entertain me. The process of making them, and also working with people like Ryan, who I think are extremely talented and have futures. I'm sort of like buying future stock.
I like that analogy because definitely he's a young writer and producer career wise, but just the his style and his the way that he writes lends itself to definitely making some big things for him.
I think so, and also he writes my style, that sort of sarcastic. I just like his sense of humor. It makes me laugh. I did another film. I just did a film that's about to come out, and you can see all the trailers and stuff on YouTube called FDR American Badass.
Yeah, actually, I was telling Jeff
we were
going to
get to that. Yeah.
And we have the trailer pulled up. If you don't mind us playing that real quick for people.
No, go ahead.
When the werewolf attacked you, and bit your leg,
Sick goblins!
you released a small stream. You've got the polio, Frank. Does my cock still work?
I think the werewolf might have come from Germany.
Motherfucker!
Germany, Italy, Japan, by joining forces.
I say we go to war.
You are preaching to the gas chamber on this one.
I call this the Delano 2000. We must blast their fucking asses!
Let's get wet.
How in the world are we going to storm the beaches of Normandy, take down an entire army of werewolves, and still make it to a French titty bar by last call?
I present Douglas MacArthur, Chief of Staff of the United States Army.
Dougie Mack.
This is Commander Winston Churchill.
This is General Dwight Eisenhower.
Mussolini!
Hitler. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Albert Einstein, the real jackass.
Shut the fuck up, Einstein!
Play it a play up him to pimp. I appreciate it.
I'm a motorcycle of death. I ain't got no sidecar.
Damn you, Frank!
We have nothing to fear but
Marco! Polio!
fear itself.
Fuck! Polio!
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's just it's Batman. I mean, it's so much fun, and I get to say fuck every other line. And it's just the opposite of everything I've ever done on television.
In President Roosevelt versus Nazi werewolves.
Yeah, right?
Really?
I mean, come on, what's better than that?
There's nothing better than that. The fact that, like he says when they tell him he has polio and he always concerned that his cock still works.
I would be concerned about that too.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's exactly what anybody would say.
You're paralyzed from the waist down. You mean the kneecaps down, right?
Yeah.
And it's got an awesome cast too. Ray Wise, Lin Shaye.
But again, it was one of those small budget, just funny, quirky films. Kevin Sorbo plays Lincoln.
Beautiful.
And we have a great scene on a rooftop where we're both stoned and sitting there passing a joint back and forth. It's it's just irreverent and silly and stupid and profane and profound, and it's about nothing but having fun. It's the kind of thing. I have a 16-year-old son. And I've spent my whole life telling him that fuck is a bad word, and now he sees this movie and he goes, oh, sure, Dad. Oh, I get you, you hypocrite bastard. Because it's I don't know. It'll come out. You'll see it, and hopefully you'll review it nicely, and people will see it, and they'll realize that again, it's it's Megaforce for this new generation.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel that it's an answer to.
We should get a hold of him, Garrett.
Yeah.
Browith.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel that it's an answer to the whole Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer thing.
Yeah, it sort of is. I mean, yeah, but that was what, a $40 million movie, and ours was $40,000, whatever.
Which is only proof that you don't have to have a big budget film in order to have pretty much the same concept. I mean, I can't imagine Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer is going to be. It can be taken seriously.
No,
I mean, I've read the book, and I don't take that seriously. So,
yeah. Well, this is just out and out pop art fun,
So I guess we're wrapping up, and before we go, a few people have some questions.
Okay.
One is what other projects? So we just talked about FDR. What other projects or anything do you have coming up?
Well, I did a pilot for a TBS series that we just delivered the film to TBS a couple of days ago. A half-hour comedy, four-camera live audience show with Julie Haggerty and myself. She was in the Airplane movies. And we play the parents of a very sort of weird and strange 35-year-old boy who still lives at home. And we're just as weird and strange and odd. It's probably one of the few times I've been able to, I think, play a weird guy on film. It's produced by Conan's group, and actually Conan is one of the executive producers and the producers of it. And he does a little bit at the end of the pilot episode, and everybody's really behind it, and I hope it goes. It was tentatively titled BFF, but I think they're changing it to something else. But I don't know if they've really established what the. But it tested well at Warner Brothers, and they're testing this week at TBS, and my fingers are crossed because it's a good comedy.
All right.
Looking forward to that. I mean, one of our biggest questions.
I'm also doing a little web series for somebody next month called Research, and 8 episodes with some interstitial things, and it's a funny, weird. Again, it's a weird, funny. I don't know why I'm attracted to these weird, strange little things, but it's a web series, and I've never done a web series, and I'm just doing it because the guy's young, and he's just graduated from USC in the film department, and he has this funny idea, and it's based somewhat on a movie, his master's thesis that he did at school, and it's the show has the movie that he did, the short film, has played like at 40 festivals and things, and of course I'm sitting here talking because I can't remember the name of it of the film. I can't remember the name of it. I could look. Wait a minute, but Sudden Death. It's called Sudden Death.
Okay.
And I think you can see the trailer on YouTube, and it's a musical. It's a musical short film. There's going to be some music in the web series, but the short film that he made, it's about a disease that's going around the world, and one of the main symptoms of it is that just before they die, they break into a major musical comedy song and dance. And then within hours they are dead. So it's a very funny concept, and it's well done. And so I'm doing a web series, and I'm doing the TBS series, and some more Cougar Towns if they pick them up for the next season. And I just keep working. That's all I do. Just keep working.
Well, I just have 2 really quick questions, so I'll let Jason, unless your questions are the same as mine. I'll let you.
Well, one of them is, what's your favorite role that you've ever played?
Probably on some levels, George Washington, because it was so involving. I mean, it was 12-hour miniseries. It was 4 straight months of shooting, and you know, and I couldn't just joke my way through it. You know, it was, I had to actually do my research, and I had to be intelligent, and I felt I sort of really understood him as a younger man, and as I don't know, I just felt a connection with George Washington and George Washington's persona.
And last but not least, the chat room is requesting a song. Is that possible?
A song?
Yeah. Well, everybody seems to be really hooked on this whole "Damn It, Janet" thing.
Oh yeah.
But you know, if you don't want to go into that, that's fine. I mean, any you know.
How did you do? I see you've met my faithful handyman. I'm just a little brought down. See, there you go. I want to play that part. Damn it!
All right. So there you go. Whoever's planning on making that one, Barry needs it. This has been fantastic, Barry. Mr. Bostwick, thank you very much.
All right, guys, this has been fun. Thank you. I want to just thank everybody in the chat rooms who participated and who listened, and just keep chatting. Keep chatting to us.
All right. Well, with that, I want to let everyone know that was our interview with the Barry Bostwick. Yeah, that's right. You get a "the" before your name. With the Barry Bostwick. If you want to get a hold of us, give us feedback on our listener feedback hotline at 503-454-6941. You can also email us your feedback at our new email address, feedback@creepercast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/creepercast. Become a fan on Facebook at facebook.com/creepercast. And of course, Jeff, where do they go for everything that I just said?
Horror related? Yeah, everything that you just said. Okay, www.creepercast.com.
All right. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Barry. You are awesome.
Adios.
Thank you for joining me.
Adios.